guilty now.
Welcome back to News Talk and our conversation this time with D.C. Council Chairman Phil Mendelson. Phone lines open if you have a question or comment for the chairman. Our number here, as always, and we'll post it to the bottom of the screen. We were able to take calls in the 11 o'clock hour, and if you want to talk with the chairman, this is as good an opportunity as you're certainly likely to get today. 703-387-1020. That's our number. Dial now, grab an open line. We look forward to having you be part of the conversation, and we'll go to the phones as your questions and comments come in. The council held a marathon hearing just a couple days ago on the crime situation that the city has been facing for a couple of months now. Testimony deep into the night with people staying till 2 and 3 in the morning in order to voice their opinions and to offer suggestions. Your colleagues there for much of it. Have you talked to the chief lately? Do you have a sense for sort of what's causing this and whether things are perhaps better in the last couple of weeks or month than they have been over the summer?
I don't think the situation is much different in the last couple of weeks than it's been over the summer, but I think that the situation over the summer was somewhat out of context, overemphasized, if you will. There's no question there's been an increase in homicides. I mean, this is a real simple way to explain it. There's been an increase in homicides. As of a couple days ago, 120 compared with 80 a year ago. That's a 50% increase, a difference of 40. If you look at all violent crimes, which includes assault with a deadly weapon and robbery, and a couple others, the increase between this year and last year is 45. Now, that's not to say it's all in homicide. Some are down, others are up. But there's this focus on the increase in homicides, which is dramatic, suggesting that there's been an equally dramatic increase in violence and violent crime in the city, and there hasn't been. There's no question that we have to focus on the homicides, no question about it. And homicides are the most reliable statistic of all criminal statistics. I mean, people don't report, for example, sexual assault, but very seldom is a dead body not reported. So it is a more reliable figure, and there's no question that homicides are the least of the crimes that we want to see happen. But the picture is complicated, and the attention that's been given has created a sense of insecurity and a sense of urgency that while this is important and critical and we have to deal with it, that sense is out of proportion. And that's why things, I think, have died down, is because we haven't had the daily press conferences, we're not seeing the articles every day on the front page, and so the attention has kind of dropped back. I can tell you the public safety agency leaders, like the chief, are very much concerned, and they want to see a turnaround in what's going on with the homicide.
Now that the council is back from recess, what are you focused on in this area?
Well, there are several bills that have been introduced. The mayor introduced a bill which he's been talking about for quite some time, so there's nothing new there, and I don't mean that to sound dismissive. Kenyon McDuffie, chair of Judiciary, introduced a bill, I believe with the support, the co-sponsorship of a majority of his colleagues, to deal with other aspects of criminal justice. I mean, there's a little bit of a tug here. One is, what do we do with these offenders, and how do we get tougher, making sure that we find the culprits and arrest them? And the other side of it is, what do we do to try to address some of the root causes? I have to say that while addressing the root causes is important and will make a big difference down the road, it doesn't have an immediate impact. So if somebody was shot last night, we want to catch that bad guy today. We don't want to deal with, the solution is not to find a job tomorrow for the guy who committed the murder yesterday.
Can you give us your reflection and your brief thought on the fire chief's call for private ambulance service to supplement the city's ambulance service at a time when calls for service are running quite high, in some cases outstripping the number of units and personnel available?
Yeah. Most people feel that the Fire and EMS chief's proposal is a good idea in the short term because it gives us additional capacity. If you think about it, the ambulance is really not the delivery of care. The ambulance is a transport vehicle. And the chief's not proposing any change with regard to how many EMTs or paramedics show up when there's an EMS call. So the delivery of service will continue, but where we're having the difficulty is with the transports, that we don't have enough transport units given the volume. So in the short term, I think this makes sense. In the long term, we need to look at whether we keep this function in-house. That is, EMS is a government service. And also, and I've said this repeatedly, we have to reduce the call volume.
Including the calls that are not emergency, that really don't need an ambulance.
Yes.
Chairman Mendelson, stand by for just a moment. We will take a quick break here. More, though, of our conversation with and your phone calls for D.C. Council Chairman Phil Mendelson straight ahead, right after we check the hour's top stories and that stormy forecast. And as always, those of you watching After Dark can watch the second half hour of the program online at news8newstalk.com.